you to click like, share, and leave your comments and thoughts below, or respond with some your opinions, right? Because I'm always seeking to hear new ideas and come up with better solutions to things that I see. But this particular soapbox, I want to talk about a conversation that I had with this guy who happens to be a psychologist, right? Because, like, I don't know, we all have our own issues and baggage to deal with in life, right? And one of the healthiest things to do is to talk with somebody about those things. And sometimes you have to talk to somebody who is in a completely objective person that you feel comfortable talking with. I think that's an important part of it. Feeling comfortable talking with them. And in the conversation, so there's many positions that people have when it comes to philosophies, I should say, I guess, styles of psychology, or what style, or what they're going to adapt, and how they believe treatment should occur, or anything like that. And I'm not going to talk about the details of why I have, or why I would want or need to talk to somebody. But on a broader scale, right? And this is what I wanted to get on my soapbox about, right? And I equate this to mental health, but when I think about myself, one of the, I think the biggest differences about me and other people in the world is, and I think that a lot of people fall in this category. You have, they call them givers and takers, right? People who are constantly giving, and people who do nothing but take, right? And they're takers, and they'll take everything from you, and not care, right? And I'm not going down that road right now, or talking about, again, this is not necessarily pertaining to me. I'm ramble and talk a bit, so I'll get to my point and what I really want to get on my soapbox about. As we were talking about this, as we were talking about myself, I was saying how I tend to think about everybody else as well, right? Could be an advantage and could be a disadvantage, right? Working on myself and still thinking about other people. And I was always taught, I was raised to fear God. I was raised to want to live my life like Jesus. Whether you believe he's a divine or whether you believe he's a prophet, what cannot be not denied about the man Jesus is the love and compassion and empathy he had for every life on earth. And I understood that at a very young age. At a very young age. I can remember talking to my mom and being upset about something, and my mom would be like, well, there's no reason to be a martyr, right? And like, and that used to hurt my feelings, and I'm like, why? Jesus was a martyr, right? Of course you stand up for a principle that you truly believe in, and if it kills you, it kills you, right? Because you love that hard, and you give that hard, and anyways, so I digress, because like I said, when I was talking and everything else, I started thinking about everybody else. And not just thinking about everybody else like everybody else and their problems, although I do think about other people and their problems as well. But I was thinking about everybody else in a broader scale, right? And this is what I wanted to get on my soapbox about. I mean, the first 5 minutes of me talking about my personal crap is kind of irrelevant in the sense of giving a backstory as to why I got to this point where I started thinking about everybody else. And what I started thinking about was how everybody labels, and this is what gets into tribalism, right? Everybody labels themselves a certain kind of way, right? I'm guilty of this. I've said in my SoapBox Slam, you know, I'm a black male, I'm biracial, but the world views me as black, and never, I mean, people I have loved still refuse to identify me as biracial and would call me a black man, right? People who I love, people who I have shared my personal story with and things like that would immediately just call me a black man. And like, that is my label, right? And this is what this is what I'm on my soapbox about, right? How we label everything so that we can tribalize everything, right? And I started thinking about, from this conversation, and identifying myself in therapy, and got into, this is where I started thinking about everybody else, and how everything gets forced into these boxes, right? And you're forced, my frustration and anger and angst, anxiety, whatever in the world comes from this thing where it's like I have to label myself a certain way and be a certain way, and I've stated before, I wish I was the stoic man identified by Marcus Aurelius. The reason why I wish I were, and that's a label in a box, right? But the reason why I would like to be a stoic man and Marcus Aurelius, if you ever listen to it or read it, Marcus Aurelius was, way back in the Roman times, a philosopher like Plato, Socrates, whatever else. And his definition of what a man should be or how a man should be has everything to do with stoicism. And when you read through it and you understand it, it removes a lot of emotion, right? It removes the ability to be emotional about stuff. It removes you acting out of emotion. It removes a lot of the ego. And I think that's specifically a lot of what is talked about in his writings, is it removes the ego from human beings. Now, we all have egos, and you're not going to completely remove it in that sense. But when I say it removes it, what it does is it tries to train, his philosophy tries to train a man to minimize all of that expression and just live life in the kindest, ironically, live life like Jesus. That was my interpretation of what I've read, right? That you remove all of the kind of dramatics of everything, and just live your life, provide for your family, raise your kids, and just be that, right? And if there's any box I most want to be a part of and be a tribal member of, it would be that box. And I am working on myself to become a member of a stoic. And there's a stoicism. It's not necessarily reclusivism. but it's very close. And to me, as I spoke about it, it seems to be the safest place to be. Again, you talk about it with people, and you work on yourself, and you figure out what works for you and what your comfort levels are. But back to this idea of boxing and labeling everything, right? So when I started thinking about everybody else and this whole tribalism of putting yourself in a box and everything else, like, you know, examples of like what I'm talking about. Here we go, right? All these isms, right? All the isms in the world. And that's really what it boils down to, right? Like all the isms in the world that create boxing everybody. I mean, you fill out forms and you've got to check a box of who you are. I'm black, I'm white, I'm this, I'm that. Well, why does any of that matter? Why do I have to identify one way or another? The world sees me as black. Forget about how I was culturized or anything like that, right? Forget about any of that. The world sees me as black, I gotta check the black box. The world sees me as male, I gotta check the male box. The world sees me as this, I gotta check this box, right? You got Hispanic, and then Hispanic non-white and Hispanic white. Like, really? We're gonna divide the Spanish-speaking population into dark-skinned Spanish-speaking people and white-skinned Spanish-speaking people? This is what we're doing to tribalize everybody? So the white Hispanics, even though they speak the same language and, are derivatives of the Spanish conquest and colonization, we're gonna identify them as something different than the other ones who were colonized and everything else, that those people who have darker skins, right? And the funniest thing about that is, those white Hispanics fucked those black people to create those darker skinned ones. So somehow they didn't delineate white from white non-Hispanic and black non-Black. They didn't delineate, clearly. I mean, to me, honestly, those people who were willing to do that, while it might have been under duress or whatever else, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say that. But anyways, I digress onto other things. And I need to stay focused, right? Putting everybody in these boxes, right? So we box everything. And then collectively in a box, we box ourselves as a group. It's like we box ourselves and take on this identity to share with other tribes. And what do I mean by that? I'm black and I'm the victim of slavery. And that's my identity, right? As a group and as an individual. The group waves the flag that this is our identity, and then we live out of that, right? Or Jews. Everywhere there isn't a Hollywood movie, a Hollywood star, an interview, or anything like that where a Jewish person gets on their platform and the first thing they say is, "Hi, I'm I'm a Jew." Immediately putting themselves in a certain box. To me, I think it's kind of dog whistling, and I don't have a lot of, even with black people or whatever else, that kind of dog whistling where who cares you're Jew? Who cares that you're a product of slavery? Who cares that you're fucking gay? Who fucking cares about any of this shit? Like, I really want to know who cares, right? Why? I mean, gay people, it's like everybody's identity of who they are is this first. I'm gay. You're gay before you're whomever. You're Jewish before you're whoever. You're black before you're a black product of slavery, before you're a person. This really eats at me at the core. And I don't know, I struggle to explain why, because I don't understand. I don't understand why any of this crap matters. And all it does, honestly, all it does is force people to align themselves with a certain group for tribal reasons, and I don't agree with it, and I struggle in every facet of life because I don't want to be a part of a group. I don't want to be I don't want to be black before I'm Deshaun. I don't want to be Protestant before I'm Deshaun. I don't want to be none of it matters to me. And even within your own group, if you don't identify and want to be a part of that label, then that group is going to destroy you. They are going to drag you. They are going to humiliate you. They are going to shame you into being into their group. Why would I want, why? It reminds me, it reminds me back when I went to college, right? I have two examples of this, right? And when I went away to college and I ended up joining a fraternity, and here we go again with groups, right? I ultimately ended up joining a white Greek fraternity as opposed to a black Greek fraternity. And it wasn't a preference of one over the other. The reason I joined a white Greek fraternity is the guys in that fraternity embraced me. They reached out to me. They made me feel like I was welcomed into their group. And that's the only reason why. When I talked to the black Greek fraternities on campus, the amount of scrutiny and discomfort I felt because I don't even know how to explain it. They didn't want to welcome me. They didn't reach out to me. They didn't want to welcome me. They didn't embrace me at all. And so, like, I'm supposed to chase after you to prove to you that I want to be a part of your group. And so because of that, I'm willing to humiliate myself in any sort of way to prove that I want to be a part of your group, right? That didn't work for me. So I joined a group that made me feel like they wanted me to be around. And I mean, just the concept that I joined a fraternity, again, you know, in my younger years, being a part of tribalism, right? And the idea of fitting in and being a part, right? I'm a Republican before I'm a human being, right? I'm a Democrat before I'm a human being. I am going to give blind allegiance to this cause, Republican, Democrat, whatever, because I'm a part of the tribe. I feel a part of something. Well, I'd like to feel a part of a group of people not beholden to a religion like a Catholic religion or a Protestant religion, but beholden to a group of people who believe in humanity and compassion and empathy. And so I'll start to wrap this up because it was frustrating and talking this stuff out, because like I said, in my core, I don't want to be tribalistic.
In 10 miles, take the exit to merge onto Dwight D. Eisenhower Expressway.
I don't want to be tribalistic. I don't want to be this before I don't want to be anything before I'm a human being who happens to be named Sean. And so I feel like the need to belong is important. But when you're no longer an individual and you only ascribe to a tribalistic group, and you now only fight for that group and whatever that group tells you to do, you are no longer an individual. You are sheep, a puppet, whatever, right? I was not built that way in my core. There are people who are meant to lead, and there are people who are meant to follow. And I feel like I feel a lot of things, but one of the things I feel most is I would love to tear down all of these tribalistic group identity and psychology, and everyone just be a part of one group, and that group be a group of human beings. And it's weird. It's like only when everybody is an individual are we actually a group. But the moment we are groups, we're no longer individuals. It didn't come to me in therapy, but I guess this thought just came to me now as I talk this out. And I kind of feel a little bit light saying that, right? Wow. Only as individuals do we become a group. But the moment we become a part of a group, we no longer are individuals. That's my soapbox today. Today. That's my soapbox. You guys have a wonderful evening. Have a fantastic day tomorrow. Be well.